Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. I recently had a conversation with a woman whose family situation reminded me of a similar family situation that I ran into years ago when I was the executive director of a memory care community. I think there's a lesson to be learned from this experience, and so I wanted to share it with you. This family came to see me saying that their dad probably needed to move into a memory care community. And I said, well, what's prompted you to look? And they said, well, he's been picked up now twice by the police walking in the middle of a very busy road in 5 o'clock traffic. And I thought, oh yeah, major safety issue. He probably does need some help here. And I said, well, tell me more. What's going on? They went on to explain that he was living in the same home that he'd been in for about 3 decades. But every day around 5 o'clock, he would leave the house and he'd say, I have to go home. And so their family started taking turns being with dad and trying to make sure that he was safe. And he would still try to leave. And they would try to prove to him that he was home. They'd show him all of his family pictures. They'd talk about the things that were in the home that he had amassed over the years, trying to point out familiar objects. And he'd say, well, I don't know why that stuff is here, but I have to go home. And no amount of trying to convince him was working. So as we discussed this, I said, well, I wonder what home means to him. Maybe the next time this happens, you could say something along the lines of, oh, that's right. We have to go home, but I forgot what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Well, they said, hey, it's probably going to happen tomorrow. This is pretty much an everyday occurrence, so we'll get back to you soon. Well, a few days later, I had a call from them. And they related the most interesting experience. The day after we met, their dad tried to leave the house again at about 5 o'clock, and they took my advice. And they said, oh, that's right, we have to go. I can't remember what we're supposed to do. And his response was, well, you know, the sheep. They realized that when he was a teenager, he had lived in the Basque region in Spain with his family, and it was his responsibility every night before dinner to bring the sheep in so that the wild animals didn't get them. They needed a reason to help him stay just a little bit longer. And they remembered that his older brother Raymond worked in town, and he would come home in time for dinner. And so they said, oh, well, we forgot to tell you, Raymond got home early from work, and he took care of the sheep so that you could stay for dinner with us. And he looked at them and said, oh, well, are you sure I can stay? And they said, yeah, no problem. And so he would sit down and have dinner with them. And since dinner time meant in his world the sheep are already taken care of, he quit worrying about the sheep and he quit trying to leave. And he was actually able to stay home a bit longer because the family used that intervention consistently and he quit trying to leave the house. That experience is a reminder that when people are living in the past, when the things that they're oriented to and that they remember best are things between the ages of 15 and 30, there are a lot of disconnects between their world and ours. And when we recognize the things they're perceiving and we steer from their point of view, we make a lot more progress and we have a better experience serving them. So today I invite you to consider how the person or people you're serving might be perceiving the world. Are they living in the past? Are they oriented to things that they experienced much earlier in life because those were really memorable times? Are those experiences influencing some of the things that come up now that you might be finding challenging? And how could you approach those situations differently in ways that would make sense were you actually living in the past? Asking those types of questions and thinking through it from a different perspective often will yield some very helpful results, just like it did for the family I told you about. I hope that makes a difference for you and for the people you serve, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.